Okay, okay, all right, okay. You're gonna get one, okay? All right, okay. All right, Amy, don't do that to me. All right. So, you're gonna get a letter, and your letter will correspond with a number. And then you'll need to call the particular number on this letter, and it will tell you when you need to report. Now, the only people that definitely need to report on Monday the 9th will be those people that want to be examined for hardship. If you don't want to be examined for hardship, then you'll use this letter, and at some point in time, every night Ms. Von Keltz and her team are going to tell you, you need to call after 5 o'clock and check the recorded message line to see whether or not your particular number or group needs to come in. Okay? So that's what's going to happen short term and long term. Now, I know with every group, because I was probably one of them, that kind of thinks this. Well, you know what? My fund meter's pegged, Judge. I'm not coming back on Monday. You can't make me come back. What are you going to do? Well, unfortunately, if you don't come back on Monday, I will send these nice gentlemen who are wearing these gray and black uniforms to come visit you, either at your home or your office, and they will force you to come back, and we'll have a very uncomfortable conversation. Let's not make that a reality. If you want to be examined for hardship, please come back on Monday at 8:30, courtroom 1C, and I and the lawyers will go ahead and hear your concerns as to why it is that you may or may not be able to serve as a juror. Now, you probably ask me, well, can I do that today? Judge, I don't care what time of day it is. I want to be examined for hardship today. I unfortunately can't do that. This space has been rented out for a wedding at 7 o'clock, so I got to get out of here, okay? No, I'm serious. By the time you all finish the video and we finish you filling out the questionnaires, we're done for the day. I've sucked up as much of your time as I possibly can do for today, and I really appreciate your patience on behalf of Amy Von Keltz and her team in jury services, as well as our advocates, who you'll get a chance to probably talk with a little bit later on. Okay, so just to recap the most important points. Going to see a video. It's going to start pretty soon. We're going to go about an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to stop. You're going to take comfort for those of you who want to take comfort. We're going to do that 2 more times. Once that's complete, you're going to fill out a questionnaire. Once you're finished filling out the questionnaire and you get your letter, which gives you the instructions that I just mentioned, you will be free to go. If you wish to be examined for hardship, you'll need to come back on Monday, January the 9th, courtroom 1C. You'll not come back up here. You'll come directly to 1C, and then we'll examine you for hardship. Okay? So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope by way of explanation, I know that doesn't alleviate what you've gone through today, but we really appreciate your patience, because without you, we could not conduct business in the criminal and civil justice systems in Fulton County. So with that, Ms. Von Keltz, if you could go ahead and begin play our tape for us, please.
Khalif Adam et al., indictment 22 SC 183572. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Earl Glanville, and I'm the Fulton County Superior Court judge that will be conducting this trial. The case we have for your consideration, if you are selected to serve on this jury, is a criminal trial. It is the case of the state of Georgia versus Khalif Adams et al., and this process that we're beginning today is the voir dire, or jury selection process. The state is represented by our district attorney, Fonnie Willis. The actual assistant district attorneys that will be trying the case are sitting at the table. Some of those lawyers include, but are not limited to, Miss Adrienne Love, Miss Simone Hilton, Miss Lizzie Rosenwasser, Mr. Demetrius Smith, Mr. Seth Brown, and Mr. John Floyd. Other lawyers will be introduced to you as they appear in our courtroom. On behalf of the defendants, we have multiple counsels. Those counsels are as follows. For Mr. Jeffrey Williams, counsels Mr. Keith Adams and Mr. Brian Steele. For Mr. DeMontre Kendrick, attorneys Jay Apt, Katie Hingerty, and Douglas Weinstein. For Mr. Khalif Adams, Tiandre Calland. For Mr. Damone Blaylock, Justin Hill. For Mr. Corderis Dorsey, Surin Chada Jimenez. For Mr. Eppinger, Eric Johnson. For Mr. Stillwell, Mr. Max Shart and Mr. David Botts. For Mr. Jaden Myrick, Ms. Gina Bernard. For Mr. Durante Beebe, Mr. Durante Partridge. For Cormarius Nichols, Mr. Bruce Harvey and Ms. Nicole Westmoreland. For Rodeus Ryan, Ms. Angela D. Williams. For Mr. Tanquarius Mender, Nicole Fagan. For Mr. Marquis Huey, Carlton Matthews Sr. and Carlton Matthews Jr., and for Mr. Miles Farley, Mr. Anastasios Menendez. Also with us today are members of my chamber staff who will be helping me through this process. My court reporter, Ms. Christina Weaver, my litigation manager, Mr. Edward Chamberlain, my staff attorney, Mr. Wesley Kearns, and my judicial assistant, Ms. Violetta Imana. There are several sheriff's deputies and members of the jury services here with us today in court and throughout the process. If you have a question that I failed to answer, please see one of the sheriff's deputies who are easily identifiable by their black and gray uniforms, and they will answer your question or seek the assistance of jury services personnel or my staff to assist you. I want to begin to explain to you how we got to this step in the case and what does this mean and what does it not mean. A criminal case begins when the grand jury meets and takes up certain matters that may be presented to it. The grand jury ordinarily only hears from witnesses for the state. One of the things that a grand jury may do is what we call return or hand down an indictment. An indictment is nothing more than a piece of paper that formally accuses someone of having done something that is considered criminal. To this indictment, the defendants have responded and said that they are not guilty of each alleged offense. Neither the indictment nor the defendants' pleas are evidence in this case. You must keep firmly in mind that in our system of justice, the defendants are presumed innocent of these charges and have no burden to testify or prove their innocence. The defendant's presumption of innocence remains with defendants until such time as the state, by proof of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, overcomes that presumption. The defendants have been indicted by a Fulton County grand jury and charged with the following offenses. State of Georgia, County of Fulton, in the Superior Court of said county, the grand jurors selected, chosen, and sworn for the County of Fulton to wit: Count 1. The grand jurors aforesaid in the name and behalf of the citizens of Georgia do charge and accuse Khalif Adams, a.k.a. Bobby Hunt, Martinez Arnold, a.k.a. Duke, Durante Beebe, a.k.a. B, a.k.a. B, Damone Blaylock, a.k.a. Bali, Javaris Bradford, a.k.a. Tuda, Justin Cobb, a.k.a. Doo-Wop, Cordarius Dorsey, a.k.a. Polo, a.k.a. Juicy, Christian Eppinger, a.k.a. Briss, Miles Farley, a.k.a. Slato, a.k.a. Little Miles, Javon Fleetwood, a.k.a. Fortray, a.k.a. Psycho, Demikian Garlington, a.k.a. D, a.k.a. Scarfax, Quantavious Greer, a.k.a. Unfunk, Marquavius Huey, a.k.a. Quay, DeMonte Kendrick, a.k.a. Yat Gotti, Sergio Kitchens, a.k.a. Gunna, Wunny Lee, a.k.a. Slime Life Shorty, Demetrius McMillan, a.k.a. Nard, Tanquarius Mender, a.k.a. Nard, a.k.a. Stunna, Walter Murphy, a.k.a. DK, Jaden Myrick, a.k.a. Set Trip, a.k.a. J-Man, Marquavius Nichols, a.k.a. Qua, Rodelius Ryan, a.k.a. Little Rod, Antonio Sledge, a.k.a. Monk Tunk, Trontavia Stevens, a.k.a. Tick, a.k.a. Slug, Shannon Stillwell, a.k.a. Shannon Jackson, a.k.a. SB, Antonio Sumlin, a.k.a. Obama, Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug, a.k.a. Slime, Jimmy Winfrey, a.k.a. Roscoe, with the offense of conspiracy to violate the Racketeering and Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, OCGA 16-4-C, for the said accused, together with unindicted co-conspirators in the state of Georgia and the county of Fulton, on or between the 24th day of January 2013 and the 8th day of May 2022, did unlawfully conspire to acquire and maintain directly and indirectly an interest in and control of United States currency and other personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity in violation of OCGA 16-14-4A, and while associated with an enterprise, did unlawfully conspire to conduct and participate in, directly and indirectly, such enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity in violation of OCGA 16-14-4B, as described below and incorporated by reference as if fully set forth herein, contrary to the law of said state, the good order of peace and dignity thereof. Part 1, the conspiracy. As associates of the enterprise Young Slime Life, hereinafter YSL, the defendants conspire to associate together with others for the common purpose of illegally obtaining money and property through a pattern of racketeering activity and conducting and participating in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. In furtherance of the conspiracy, the defendants engaged in the activities enumerated herein. The objectives of the conspiracy included but were not limited to preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, territory of the enterprise through acts of racketeering activity including murder, assault, and threats of violence, preserving and protecting and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise by posting of messages, images, videos, and songs demonstrating allegiance to the enterprise and a willingness to engage in violence on its behalf. Maintaining armed individuals ready and willing to preserve, protect, and enhance the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise through the use of violence. Obtaining money, weapons, and other property through acts of racketeering activity, including robbery, theft, and the unlawful sale and distribution of drugs. And obstructing law enforcement investigations and court proceedings through witness intimidation and attacks upon law enforcement officers. Part 2, the enterprise. The enterprise YSL is an enterprise consisting of a group of individuals associated, in fact, although not a legal entity. YSL constitutes an ongoing organization whose associates function as a continuing unit for the common purpose of achieving the objectives of the enterprise. BYSL. History. YSL is a criminal street gang that started in the late 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue of Atlanta, Georgia. YSL claims affiliation with the National Bloods gang. YSL's founders were Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug, a.k.a. Slime, Walter Murphy, a.k.a. DK, and Trontavia Stevens, a.k.a. Tick, a.k.a. Slug. Jeffrey Williams, an Atlanta-based hip-hop artist, made YSL a well-known name by referring to it in his songs and on social media. 2 identifiers. YSL uses a variety of identifiers including colors, clothing, tattoos, hand signs, as well as verbal and written identifiers. YSL claims affiliation with the National Bloods gang, and some associates also claim the blood subsect gangs sex, money, murder, or 30 deep. YSL associates often display their colors by wearing a green or red bandana on their person, a practice known as flagging. YSL associates often wear clothing with the letters YSL or the word slime printed on them. YSL associates also wear pendants displaying the letters YSL or the word SLAT. The most predominant YSL colors are red for bloods and green for slime. YSL associates use a variety of hand signs. One of the most common hand signs is the wiping of the nose with the index finger. Another frequently used YSL hand sign consists of curling the ring and pinky finger inward toward the palm while extending the index and thumb with the middle finger slightly curved. The extended middle and index fingers represent the Y. The curved middle finger and the curved ring finger represent the S. The extended index finger and thumb represent the L. YSL associates will also make the two guns hand sign by forming pistols with their fingers and pointing them in opposite directions. YSL associates use a variety of other identifiers. Often, YSL associates will write or say the word BLAT, which means blood love all the time. YSL associates will also use the word SLAT, which means slime love all the time. Often associates will simply refer to each other as blood or slime. They also refer to the Cleveland Avenue as Bleveland, replacing the C with a B. Green heart, green snake, blowing nose, or green vomit emojis are also symbols commonly used by associates of YSL. Primary locale. YSL associates are predominantly active in Southeast Atlanta in the Cleveland Avenue area, but are expanding their activities into the surrounding metropolitan Atlanta area. Part 3. Acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. In furtherance of the conspiracy and to affect its objectives and purposes, the defendants committed and caused to be committed, among others, the following overt acts, certain of which constitute acts of racketeering activity. And ladies and gentlemen, there are three things. There's an act, there's an on or about date, and then there's the scope of conduct. So I will go from Act 1, I'll tell you the date, and then I'll tell you the scope of conduct. And if there's a picture that goes with it, I will hold up the indictment for you to take a look at that picture. Act 1, on or about 01/25/2013. Scope of conduct. Defendant Trontavia Stevens, an associate of YSL, did commit the felony offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, to wit, a firearm, against the person of Reginald Pettis by pointing at, towards, or in the direction of Reginald Pettis with said firearm, placing Reginald Pettis in reasonable apprehension of immediately receiving a violent injury in violation of Georgia law pursuant to OCGA 16-5-21, which is an act of racketeering activity under OCGA 16-14-3, subpart 5A-V, and an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Act 2, on or about 06/18/2013, scope of conduct. Defendant Justin Cobb, an associate of YSL, did commit a felony offense of theft by deception against the person of Durante Johnson by obtaining a firearm by deceitful means from Durante Johnson with the intention of depriving Durante Johnson of said firearm in violation of Georgia law pursuant to OCGA 16-8-3, which is an act of racketeering activity under OCGA 16-14-3, subpart 5A, Roman numeral X11, and an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Act 3, on or about 08/23/2013, scope of conduct. Defendant Shannon Stillwell, an associate of YSL, did commit the felony offense of possession of marijuana with intent to distribute in violation of Georgia law pursuant to OCGA 16-13-30J1, which is an act of racketeering activity under OCGA 16-14-3 5A, Roman numerals XXXVI, and an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Act 4, on or about 09/09/2013, scope of conduct. Defendant Jeffrey Williams, an associate of YSL, did commit the felony offense of theft by receiving stolen property when he possessed the property, to wit, a firearm, the property of Andrew Phillips and Ann Phillips, that Williams knew or should have known was stolen with the intent of depriving Andrew Phillips and Ann Phillips of said property in violation of Georgia law pursuant to OCGA 16-8-7, which is an act of racketeering activity under OCGA 16-14-3 5A, Roman numeral XII, and an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Overt act, I should say 5/09/11/2013. Scope of conduct. Defendant Walter Murphy, an associate of YSL, did, with the intent to commit a theft, commit the felony offense of attempted armed robbery by taking a substantial step toward the commission of the offense by pointing an offensive weapon, to wit, a firearm, at the person of Derek Dodson, and demanding property from or from the immediate presence of Derek Dodson in violation of Georgia law pursuant to OCGA 16-4-1, which is an act of racketeering activity under OCGA 16-14-3 5A, Roman numeral XII, and an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Act 6, on or about 09/11/2013, scope of conduct. Defendant Walter Murphy, an associate of YSL, did commit the felony offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, to wit, a firearm, an object which, when used offensively against a person, is likely to result in serious bodily injury against the person of Derek Dodson by shooting at, toward, or in the direction of Derek Dodson with said firearm in violation of Georgia law pursuant to OCGA 16-5-21, which is an act of racketeering activity under OCGA 16-14-3 5AV, and an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Act 7, on or about 09/11/2013, scope of conduct. Defendant Walter Murphy, an associate of YSL, did commit the felony offense of possession of a firearm by a first offender probationer in violation of Georgia law pursuant to OCGA 16-11-131 by possessing a firearm, to wit, a handgun, after having been sentenced pursuant to Article 3 of Chapter 8 of Title 42 of the Official Code of Georgia to a term of probation as a felon.